Your thoughts on what needs to be done differently, because arrests are not new. The fight on corruption being on the headline is not new. Governments have tried, even during the time of Honorable Mwai Kibaki, there was, a war waged on corruption, but it seems always to be lost at some point.
Actually, arrests are new. The headline that you talk about in 1968 is one that I'm familiar with. Mm-hmm. And it was then Vice President Moi who was telling parliamentarians and Kenyans that they should report cases of corruption. And there were issues that were happening at that time. And government then proclaimed it was going to crack the whip. And there have been many other things. There have been cashew nuts issues in the coast in Sambweni. There have been issues of coffee smuggling where very senior people in government were involved. There was the ivory saga of the 70s. There have been very many things where we have had big names floated, but nothing has happened. So there's a sense in which arrests are new. Mm-hmm. And there's also this belief that the law is meant for the small person. Mm-hmm. That when you are a big man, big woman with big bucks, then you are immune to punitive action. Indeed, that when therefore people are arrested, they should even be arrested on a specific day of the week. Mm-hmm. So that
in a certain manner.
In a certain manner. Mm-hmm. And we have even seen people who are saying that they enjoy immunity, citing some imaginary laws that we don't know of. Maybe Mheshimiwa here as a litigation lawyer, as a legislator, could tell us whether it is true that governors are entitled to enjoy some immunity from in criminal and civil matters. Mm-hmm. So I think that something seems to be happening for the first time. And I want to take President Uhuru Kenyatta seriously on his word and to say that what he said seems to be taking place. When he said, even if it's my brother, my own brother, he will carry his own cross. And let the processes go on. Mheshimiwa Wahome tells us that people should not be kept behind the bars for too long. Of course, the law is there, and it defines a period within which one should be produced before the courts. The assumption also would be that the courts would be sitting within that
specified time.
That specified time. So I think
something is happening.
Let us see.
All right, Professor Wajakoya, your thoughts on if anything needs to be done different, and do you feel that there's that wind of change? We've had, like Barack says, arrests have been done before, but is there a difference in what's happening in Kenya right now?
Absolutely. And President Uhuru Kenyatta now has warned the whole world community. The world community leadership knows that something is happening in Kenya, and the gentleman has now come up and he should remain where he is. However, having said so, parliamentarians, not my colleague, because I have not had her in these scandals, or I haven't had her in these flight risks moving around the country looking for votes in 2022 for the surrogates, but thank you for that. What I would like to say is, it's really intriguing for people like Keter, Minister for Energy, coming up yesterday for the first time with some kind of mediocre replacement. Why hasn't this man come up with a ministerial statement to tell the country what was happening in the energy sector? Why would he come up with some kind of mediocre appointments at the last minute? To do what? Keter should be in jail. He ought to have resigned long time ago, and I'm sure he's going to go to jail. Mark my words. He'll be picked up very soon. Why do you
think he should be in jail?
He has been responsible for this mayhem in the energy sector. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the names that come with what has been going on, I'm not saying that nominating or appointing people because of their loyalty or background or tribe is a bad thing. That was there during the Kenyatta 1 regime. It has been there during Moi's regime. Maybe it's a continuity of our culture in this country. But that mediocrity in the Ministry of Energy stinks. The Minister for Energy should be out of the doors immediately. First of all, this appointment was suspect. Number two, look at the names. If it is not Tarus, it's Kipkomboi, it's Chepchirichir, it's what have you. Nothing wrong with that, don't take me wrong. But that culture and the trend in which these appointments have been made, and with the minister not having come up with a ministerial statement, I mean, that's mediocrity.
Okay.
I've practiced law in UK, I practice law in the US, I teach law, I practice law in Kenya. I've been involved with other governments in advising them, but I don't know whether President Uhuru should actually pull the rug and say, you know what, get out of my way. But I can assure you that they will be arraigned before the court very soon.
All right, and we'll come to that on Political Point from 7 o'clock, where Keter's fury over ouster of senior managers, and I'll want to hear what the other panelists have to say about that. But I'll hold that for now because I also want us to look at other stories in the newspaper. And we also have the former president of the US was in the country yesterday, and one of the things that he highlighted is that Kenya is headed in the right direction. That's according to Obama. Let me come to you, Barack, since you share a name with the former president. And he says we are headed in the right direction. But one of the key things that Kenyans would probably want to understand is with the handshake, there definitely was a positive feel in the country. However, there are major issues that have not been addressed. And for one reason or the other, some feel like they're being left in the back burner. And there are, things that are known to us, electoral injustice, things to do with corruption. Okay, we can see that the fight in corruption maybe is taking shape. We have inclusivity. There are certain things that seem to have gone mum with that handshake. Your thoughts on that?
I recognize that there's a difference between direction and destination. There's a difference between direction and route. You could be headed generally in the right direction. Maybe the place you want to go to is in the north. It depends on whether you are going to the north using the correct route or using the wrong route, because the direction may be right, but the destination is going to be wrong. So we must ask ourselves such questions. And I think that President Obama is contextualizing this in the prism of the handshake, the amity between ODM leader Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta, and which is a good thing in spirit. But we have been told that all religions are the same. They worship God. But there's also a devil, and the devil is in the detail. That is why they will say we are the true religion. So the devil is in the detail. The spirit of the handshake is good. We must then start talking about its letter, its content, its articles, which are not known to most of us. And even as we generally gravitate in the right direction, we must be cautious lest we end up down a cliff rather than ending up in the desired destination. And therefore, President Kenyatta and his co-handshaker, ODM leader Raila Odinga, should open up, should unbundle the contents of the handshake.
All right, Mheshimiwa?
Maybe we could start with a visit by the former president of the United States, Barack Obama. I think it's a good thing. He had promised that he would be returning, at least to visit and go to his roots, his home at Kogero. And therefore, when I saw that he has made that happen, I think it's a commitment to the fact that your identity, your origin, your background is also critical and important, even at that high-level office. And therefore, I see that I'm sure he will inspire that region and, of course, Kenya. Because there are also many of us who stay here in Nairobi for too long and they forget to even visit their own parents maybe once a year. And it's, you know, in Kenya, how long would you take to get to your parents' home? And actually, you find that very many Kenyans don't visit their home. So I think to that extent, there is a very good message. But of course, the handshake, everybody is applauding the handshake. And I think I would also join everybody else and say it's a good thing. However, I think that, and I have said this before, that we shouldn't go very far without knowing and appreciating, participating, possibly putting together what is within the handshake, so that we don't build expectations that will not be met by the handshake. You know, the handshake itself is a political, is it an activity or an event? It's a political thing there, and what will even come in will also be determined a lot by the politics around the two institutions, because Didi Raila and Uhuru themselves are institutions. And then, of course, there is the supporters, there is the Kenyans' interest, the public, large public interest. For me, demands that we start knowing, you know, actually revealing, be objective, or could be clear for me, because this maybe to bring the country together. But of course, within that, what will drive it? Where will Kenyans be in that? Where will politics be placed?
And this is where now you leaders, if you'll allow me
that's where we are politicking.
That's where you're politicking.
Yes.
But this is the point where now it should be unpackaged. It feels that it's taking rather long for us to get the full details. We do know that there was a 14-member committee that was set up to come up and, you know, drive the Building Bridges initiative. But it seems to be taking a little bit long, and the fear on many Kenyans is that we get to 2022 and we'll have forgotten, quote unquote, then the country erupts again. What is it that we're waiting for?
Because I believe the head of state and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga are mindful. They must be aware of the weight and the expectations behind the handshake. I believe that it was not possible, obviously, to move very quickly after the handshake, because you needed a structure, and the structure itself must be somehow founded within some mechanism. So the way I understand is that actually they have already published, you know, the names, so that you can institutionalize the process of dealing with the details. Otherwise, if you don't do that, then you'll be an unstarter. They needed an office. The last time I met one of them, just, you know, and they said they are now preparing. They also have to look for funding or to be funded to be able to start moving. But so it's really not...
So do you have a time frame we're working with?
Within that structure, then there will be the time frame. The issues will be drawn. They will be left also given to the public, and we should also have a place of inputting or building further on those issues, even maybe throwing some of them out, bringing new ones in. So let's wait and see.
Yes,
I think there is goodwill.
There is goodwill.
Yeah.
I've got a fundamental problem with this whole process, the extent that it has developed beyond the handshake. The handshake was a good thing. Make no mistake about it. It cooled the temperatures, brought down a ceasefire between two traditional adversaries, and gave the country an opportunity to breathe and to start afresh. But beyond that, I think things have been done the wrong way. We have got institutions. We should not be trying to reinvent the wheel. We have got institutional frameworks within which efforts of this kind can be made. When we look at even the gazettement, every gazettement that the president makes, that a cabinet secretary makes, will usually cite a certain article of the law. This one has not cited any article of the law, where you are saying that by powers conferred upon me by article this or section that of this law or of the other people, I so and so in my official capacity as this and that do hereby constitute the following forum whose members will be. It is not there, and there are others have said. Where is the office of the Attorney General?
Allow me to pose you, Barack, because I want us to take a short break and we'll start from right there on what possibly you think should be the structures that should be in place or institutions that should take this over, because they're already there. Because we want to release our KTN home viewers for Life and Style to begin. But on KTN News, we have Political Point coming up, and we're going to start from right there with Barack Obama praising the handshake. What are some of the structures that possibly need to be in place for us to ensure that we do not forget those fundamental things that even split the country during the election? It seems to happen every single time we have elections. For now, we take a short break. We'll be right back with Political Point.
This is KTN News.
You in the pollution? Yes, you. Dry throat? Strepsils. Gal in the smoke with a raspy voice? Strepsils. Hello, in the downpour with a scratchy throat? Take Strepsils. Get soothing relief for any throat irritation. Strepsils with its medicinal ingredients will heal the harm done to your throat from external factors. Strepsils. Strepsils for a dry, itchy, raspy, scratchy throat.
Luxury, comfort, attention to detail, extra touch of class, royalty. This is Lesus Executive. We offer excellent selection of chauffeur-driven cars that cater for your business meetings, conferences, VVIP transport, airport transfers, special and red carpet events. Contact us for the executive feel. Lesus Executive, where class meets comfort.
From Juba in South Sudan to Johannesburg in South Africa. Bottom Line Africa, speaking truth to power, highlighting events around the continent, questioning the authorities,
will not be participating in the election,
and putting context to stories that matter to Africa.
Last year, Rwanda did say that it aims to finance 84% of its budget, moving from 66% local financing.
Makadirio ya bajeti kuu ya Tanzania kwa mwaka wa fedha 2018-2019 ni shilingi za Kitanzania trilioni 32.5.
Issues of security continue to be top of the discussion here in Uganda.
Every Monday to Thursday at 10 to 11 p.m.
This is KTN News.
And welcome back to Morning Express. In case you're joining us now, it's time for Political Point, a quick reintroduction of the panel that we have this morning. And to my extreme left, I have Honorable Alice Wahome, who's a Member of Parliament for Kandara. We have Barack Muluka, who's the Secretary General for ANC, and Professor Wajakoya, who is an special immigration lawyer, joining us this morning basically to look at Political Point. And before we took the break, we were looking and highlighting the fact that the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, was in the country. And one of the things that he highlighted is his support for the handshake between Raila Odinga and the President Uhuru Kenyatta. However, questions, of course, still remain on whether it was just a handshake and what next after the handshake. And Barack, I cut you short while you were explaining, and maybe let's start from the point where, what structures do you feel should be in place? You mentioned that, yes, the spirit of the handshake is good. However, it may have been done in the wrong way. What should have been the right way? And maybe not to look at so much what has already been done. What should be done now moving forward? Very briefly, so that I can come to this.
Yes, indeed, and I like the way you have recast and recapped. And one wants to recognize that there are institutions, that Kenya has not reached that stage of deterioration that we can say we are a failed state. When you have become a failed state, you can embrace informal government. Informal government means that you set aside the institutions that are established by the law and in their place use alternative contexts and forums that lack the backing of the law. So we should just go back to the law. If we are talking about building bridges between Kenyan communities, between political formations and opinions, between different demographics, we have got the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. It is conspicuously missing from this whole process. We have got the Office of the Attorney General, which should be ensuring that indeed, as they say, we are going in the right direction, that we are also on the right path, and that we are even moving at the right speed, and that we are on in the right vehicle, taking us to the right destination. That when we talk about the involvement of the legal fraternity, we have got the Law Society of Kenya that is even nominating a representative into that forum. That when we talk about the religious fraternities, they are also properly constituted in the country, and you don't just pick up a bishop or an imam because you are cronies. Let the LSK feel that it is represented, the SUPKEM feel it's represented, that the NCCK is represented, because that representative then goes back to those forums to build further consensus, and we can start believing that we are moving together. The institution of Parliament, and which I'm privileged to be sitting next to here, should also be represented in this whole process. You're not going to ambush politicians, elected leaders, nominated leaders with some amorphous formations crafted somewhere outside and tell them that this is what we have brought to you now in the context of building bridges. Now formalize it through legislation.
All right. Professor, your thoughts on possibly what should happen now, given that the handshake did calm the tensions that were there. However, there are underlying currents that we cannot ignore, and we do not want to wait until 2022 for them to erupt.
First of all, I have to thank Honorable Alice Wahome. Probably, if you didn't know, I was brought up by J.J. Kamodo, who is from Murang'a. So I thank the Murang'a people for having made me to sit on this chair. And secondly, before I even come to that question, I thought it would be reasonable and plausible for me to speak something or to comment on Barack Obama's visit, because Muluka has exhausted me by what he has said. I would tend to differ with Barack Obama's praise and worship kind of liturgy that we are now foreseeing in our midst. Barack Obama was brought in this country by his late auntie, Zaytun. Zaytun came to the United States, and eventually she died. And we had very difficult times to bring the body or to ship the body home. My family was involved in a serious note, and a few other families, and the body stayed there for almost 1.5 months. Barack Obama never said a word about his auntie that he praises so much in his book, Searching for My Father. And then also when he came, he did not even mention about the demise of his aunt, who is actually interned in Kisumu Cemetery. That was wrong, very, very wrong indeed. And I will not agree that a person of that magnitude, with the person who was actually behind him coming back home, could actually not even comment or attend the funeral of his aunt. That's wrong. But
maybe that is on a personal level. But looking at his visit this time, just to stay in focus, in regards to his comments that, you know, the handshake is in the good direction, but what you, as Wajakoya, would expect that we should be doing as Kenya to cement that handshake so that in 2022 we're not having the same issues erupt?
I think for me, I'll take a different direction. I'll praise the president again and praise him again and again 3 times. And also praise Raila. Because this country was going down, people are being labeled by their tribe. The Kalenjins and Kikuyus were being wrapped together because of what was going on. Right now, is a thing of the past. And we can also see what's happening after the result of the handshake. The mighty are now being arrested as we wait for the big man to be arrested very soon. But sorry about that. So,
which big man?
Yeah, there are a few big men that will be arrested. Watch this space and take it to the bank for free. I know what I'm talking about. But
it might be nice for you to also just tell us the big men. You seem to have information that is
yeah, let's wait until, then I'll comment after the arrest. Okay. The handshake is going toward the right direction. We should not actually hurry up and lament and talk of the institutions. If you look at the preamble of the Constitution and you look at Article 1 of the Constitution, we have this we the people syndrome. And the president and Raila are part of we the people. Article 1 donates power to relevant areas, arms of government. But having said so, the president also has the mandate. Even though he's a servant of the Constitution, he is actually the custodian of we the people, because he has been empowered by the same people to work within the enshrines of the Constitution. But if we go too much into rigidity of the law that everything has been cocktailed and pre-stamped by law, then the society will actually break up. If you look at what we call social active litigation in India and how the academia and the people of India have reshaped, including the Supreme Court of India, have reshaped the thinking into the social activism in terms of legislation, which has actually been copied by the UK, by the Brits, when they came in and reclosed social active litigation into public interest litigation. You'll find out that we cannot just be cocktailed within the law, follow the law, be inside the law. We at times need to have breathing space. Yes.
Informal government.
Well, let me finish what I'm saying. Even in court, when there is a vacuum. Just
try and keep it brief, because I want us to move on to
So when the president comes up and says, look, let us take this direction, and people come and say, yes, it's fair for you to do that without any complaint, because they're the custodians of we the people syndrome, there's nothing wrong with that.
All right, and well, that's your opinion and you're entitled to that. But I want us to move on to something else. And we do know that the bosses of Kenya Power have been arrested and have been in, being held in custody for several days. But I'd like us to also just look at what the CS for Energy had to say, and that is Honorable Keter. Let's listen into him, then we can basically continue that conversation on matters corruption.
It's like when Zambia lost the national football team. We've lost the best.
With uncertainty.
All right, unfortunately, we're not able to get that clip correctly. But one of the things he was saying is that he feels that the exercise has not been carried out in a manner that he is comfortable with. As you've heard there, he was alluding to the fact that it's like losing a whole football team. And I think he was referring to the fact that the whole management team is now, in the police custody, and the company needs to go on. Barak, your thoughts, first of all, on his comments and the fact that if they're going to be arrested, I'm sure the DPP has reason as to why he has them arrested.
If it is a team of thieves or a team of suspects, you are not going to leave some behind so that they carry on with the business. And Keter serves in government. If he is not happy with the way it's been done, the first thing he should do is to step down. He should resign, and then, having stepped out of government, criticize as robustly, as loudly as he possibly could. We are concerned in this country, and it doesn't matter. First of all, he should have asked, why have they bunked that place with the people of the same fraternity, whether it is a fraternity of stealing, whether it's a fraternity of ethnic background, or such other defining factors. And it's not difficult to see what is happening in this context. Read the names and see what they are telling you. And lessons begin happening. I've talked here previously about something I call prebendalism, where people believe that one of the benefits of being in power in government is stealing. You're going to government because it's now your turn to steal. And when you get arrested, somebody who is supposed to be your godfather starts feeling bad.
Honorable Wahome, your thoughts on the comments by the CS, again, given that he is meant to be part of the team that is ensuring that corruption is rooted out?
Okay, I think the way I'm looking at this, and maybe even previous arrests, I think the DCI and the DPP have either adopted a new style, because you see, the Kenya Power and Lighting Company is actually a limited company with shareholders, it's more or less like an agency under the Ministry of Energy or within the ministry that Keter oversights. And I think it is not unusual to see somebody feeling like they are believed somehow, because the entire team suddenly is found to be wanting. And some of these people could be doing things without the ministers being aware. I mean, because
sleeping on the job.
Is that a possibility?
I really want to understand. And these are things we need to start understanding, because it is not possible that when an entire team is taken, for sure the minister must feel very exposed. I think he must feel exposed.
And rightly so, because if then he's exposed, it then tells us that possibly somebody is sleeping on the job. If he is the one who's supposed to be on top of things, he's the custodian, then I think he should also honorably just step aside.
I don't want to make those conclusions, because, you know, initially I said, we hope that as a country, we will not be taken so high and then we are dropped. And I would really like to support the DCI and the DPP. And I also think the courts should not get excited with this process. I mean, they must put structures and mechanisms in place of processing, because it looks like, you know, we have started a new phase. And therefore, even when you, and Kenyans, Barak and I, should feel comfortable if we are found that we are going to face the law, to know that I will not be punished before the time for punishment comes.
And before due process.
Before due process. And therefore, even when you look at the Constitution, it actually has very, very wide privileges and rights. You know, I mean, rights actually fundamental to the freedom of, you know, association, freedom, your right to fair trial. And when we see people being battled together, and really I want to caution, when we see people being battled together and they are taken to court, all of them together, and then you are taken on a Friday, I want to support the DCI and the DPP, but they must make sure that, because we want to have confidence, we want to restore confidence in these offices. But you see, you are supposed to be, all these offenses, first, offenses are bearable. These offenses are actually bearable. And the minute that we say they are bearable, small or big, every Kenyan must be given
a fair chance.
A fair chance. So I'm trying to say that don't arrest on Friday.
No, arrest in a day.
Let me finish my prosecution. If the objective is to keep these people for 2 days, for more than 2 days, because you are supposed to retain an accused person only for 24 hours. So if you cannot, unless there is a danger that if you don't arrest them, and then you must be able to tell the court, the reason I did on this on Friday, so that now I have had them beyond the 24, because 24 hours is within the Constitution. Okay. And let's not underrate, because if we are going to go as a country, and you know we are going to go for the long haul, then we need to do things.
From your submission, Mheshimiwa, are you then saying that there is a possibility that these people were attacked, or there is a force that possibly was trying to...
You know, I'm not speaking for them, but I'm just saying I want to speak for every Kenyan who may be arrested, including myself. I don't want to be arrested on a Friday. If the DCI, because this is a due process of the law, if the DCI and the DP cannot be able to present me before the court so that within my 24 hours, I can have a fair chance to ask for bail.
Okay.
So let me come to you. So for Ketel, I think it's inhuman to feel exposed. Yeah, it's human.
And vulnerable.
And vulnerable, yeah.
Okay.
Keter should be in jail. He's corrupt. He's a thief. Hold on. That's my word.
Can you support your...
Yes. I am ready to be taken to court.
When you say he is corrupt...
Yes, I will support my accusations.
So.
And I'm not going to sit here to be whimed by these lifestyles of some, not Wahome, of course the mindset in parliament is corruption.
Yes, but when you make an accusation that
because
the minister is corrupt,
one thing is this: we have had problems with the KPLC, we have had problems with the Minister of Energy. This minister has not come out to issue a single statement as to the mayhem that was taking place in the ministry for the last 8 or so months. There have been a public outcry, and we are talking of taxpayers' money. This minister has not come out. He's just coming out right now to speak about the laws, the laws of a football team in Ghana, in Zambia, and what have you, because his cohorts have been taken to court. Come on, let common sense be prevailed upon.
Professor Wajakoya, you're a lawyer.
Yes, I am.
I understand that by law, you cannot just make an accusation without evidence or without reason.
Well, I'm telling you now because there's evidence and people have been picked up from that ministry because of 4.5 or 2 billion having been paid to when the whole thing was under broad daylight. But let me come to what I was trying to say. This issue of comfort zone for thieves and crooks, or suspects who are likely to be jailed, or for suspects who have made Kenyans to be where they are today, for suspects who have made the president and the former prime minister to shake hands to bring back peace and normality in the country. There should be some lifestyle that they should be arrested on a particular day because of the Constitution. Whose Constitution is this? And secondly, why would we interrogate police work? Why would we try now to throw mud on what Haji is doing, what Kinoti is doing by saying, and the lawyer saying it in court, not Mheshimiwa, that, they should not be arrested on Friday. Why should we sit a thief? I am sorry, take me to court if you think that I'm saying the wrong thing. But I'm so bitter. I'm very bitter with what has been going on until the handshake came in. A thief is a thief, whether it's a member of parliament or not a member of parliament. Let him be arrested by the police and let them also feel it before they exonerate themselves in court.
All right, Barak, your thoughts on that. And also this brings to question, and this may be because of position. You remember we had the governors also come out and say that based on how Sospita Ojemong was arrested, they felt that that was not fair because of his position. He wasn't treated with the due dignity that is required. Your thoughts on this and the fact that there should be one size that fits all when it comes to the law for Kenyans?
That's the point. Yeah.
The law is a levelizer. It's almost like one of those natural things that levelize all of us. And it should apply equally to all people across the board without let or hindrance. And therefore, it doesn't matter that you are governor, that you are a Juakali, cobbler, whatever you are. The law must treat all of us equally. Now, I don't know whether if the police were to find somebody committing a felony on a Friday, whether they should wait for the weekend to come and pass before they go and arrest that person, because people should be produced in court within 24 hours. It's very clear that if there's a holiday or it's not a working day, the persons who are arrested should be produced before the courts at the very earliest opportunity. It's also true that in certain contexts, not all, but in certain contexts, it's also possible to get a police bond, which allows you to go away and present yourself at the very earliest opportunity. It's also very well known that people who are in powerful positions will use those positions to interfere with evidence, and therefore you try to keep them away from evidence and from witnesses to the extent that the law permits you to have them away. Finally, when you look at people who are being treated as a team, the DCI and the DPP have presumably seen a chain of liability that this one, in fact, when they say a team, a football team, think of it as a team, that there is this one who is passing the ball to the next one and to the next one and the midfielder and whoever is going to score eventually, and we know where the goal is going to be. In this context, we've just come out of the World Cup season, and so Keter has used a very good image that shows that these people were working together as a team. I don't know the extent of his personal liability. I wouldn't perhaps go to the same extent as Professor here has done, but I would call for his resignation. What has he been doing all this time? Instead of coming and spewing this kind of anger, Russia's anger that is undeserved, he should actually be apologizing to Kenyans, for sleeping on the job.
And Mheshimiwa, maybe just to get your full context so that we don't go wondering what you are saying, I think it would be simplistic to think that you meant that them not being arrested by Friday is because they are special lot. No. When you say that they should not be arrested on Friday, substantiate
I mean, every Kenyan has, including those and any other Kenyan, have a right of a fair trial, have a right to bail, even though they may be suspects. And therefore, if you're going to arrest somebody on Friday, knowing that the Constitution says that within 24 hours you must present them to court, then you must have bail or bond, like Baraka said, before the after or within the 24 hours, so that then the court will decide. Because at the time you are arresting somebody, you have sufficient material. You have prepared your case, you have the evidence, and when you are going to court, it's very rare that you are now going back to do investigations or to look for more. If there is anything remaining, it means that you have sufficient material to prosecute that person, and that's why you are charging them. So you should prepare your documentation, have the documentation ready so that at the earliest then, and I agree, you take them to court. So therefore, if at the earliest within the 24 hours, it is within their right to get bail, then bond them, knowing that, because you have to assess whether that person, because the only excuse you have is that you felt that this person will not be available at the demand or at the order of the court. And even when you go to court, you can be able to convince the court that you will be available. So I'm not saying that they should be given any special treatment. All I'm saying is that let's not make this as, and I really am in support of the DCI, because there is a new style, there is a new vigor, there is some new energy, and we need to support. But also, he must work within the law. And you see, let us not excuse, because even the police can actually, and they have been accused previously, we have fought very big battles to actually level the field, as we are saying. And we cannot be seen now to take away.
Your thoughts on the governor's request to have
immunity? The governors are out of order because first, I think, and I'm saying the governor is a person who will be available at the order of the court. So once you have some information and you want to take him to court, you have prepared your charge. Give the governor a bail or bond and demand that he comes to your office
and
at the
if
time.
He has gone in hiding, like this particular governor.
Let me finish. What I'm saying, you must give him the liberties allowed in the Constitution. But if you are convinced that if he was hiding and you have sufficient information, then you can keep him. And actually, you'll be able to argue your case. Of course,
and I guess
the governors are not shielded by the law against prosecution.
Yes, what we're saying is that governors, members of parliament, all these bosses, they are Kenyans and they are under the law, the same law.
Don't use them to demonstrate that you are now working, because it's actually going to hit you.
But at the same time, how do we strike that balance, Mheshimiwa? Because it's not using them to demonstrate. It's if they're found guilty,
you see, even the small
arrested.
man, actually, there are so many people who are battered in the police cells wrongfully, and it is very, 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 very bad. And I'm saying, even those ones, if the police can be able to take them, don't arrest them on Friday. Arrest them on Monday. Take them to court.
If you find them stealing now,
if you find them stealing,
don't arrest them now.
If you find
wait
them stealing,
until
and
Monday.
I think let's not underrate this issue. If you find somebody stealing today, and if you find a suspect and this person needs to be arrested, you arrest them and assess whether they can be available at your demand, being the police station, so that you
tell
go to
them,
court.
please, sir,
if
I have arrested
likely to
but I
run
can
away,
release you
so
that you come on Monday.
At
the time you are arresting, you have mechanism.
There is a law that guides, and I believe, for instance, if you're arrested with a traffic offense, the police officer will tell you that you can go and pay bond, where you can pay and you're released and and come back whenever necessary.
Because that,
unless the law views that possibly you're at flight risk.
You are at flight risk, you are likely to run away. And some of the petty offenders, they really actually suffer a lot. But the point is, even when you look at the penalties, that they are likely to be the conviction and the penalties, you kind of like take sufficient amount of money to guarantee if they are taken to court, this is what they are likely to be penalized with. So that it's kind of like an assurance that you are doing things the right way. But it cannot be right for us to sit here on a national TV and say, because I'm Alice Wahome, I'm the governor of ABCD, I have to be taken like everybody. There is no everybody else. The law requires that immediately you are arrested, within 24 hours, take me to court so that if you cannot give me bail. But if you can give me bail and you are convinced I will come until you are through with your investigations, then you can actually bail me out, give yourself maybe even a month. Once the material is ready, then arrest me. Come back, arrest and take me to court.
Okay, we'll need to summarize because of time. I need you to have your closing comments as well as you make your comments.
You've gone in hiding. And we know that the specific governor who sparked this whole hula baloo was given the opportunity, was invited, requested to present himself.
And he did
he went into hiding initially, in Uganda specifically. But after some time, when he realized that he could no longer stay in hiding, he came forth and he was apprehended. And
he presented himself.
Yeah, but
actually he presented himself.
She's been saying we should allow her to speak.
Okay.
Can we enjoy the same benefit?
Okay, yes.
Yeah. So he had been in hiding for some time, and eventually he did show up, and he presented himself. That does not in any way detract from the reality that he had been in hiding. And we should put the two on the weighing scales and say that this was bad. And for governors to move from there and say, oh, we enjoy immunity, we should not be prosecuted, we are like the president, they are not. So we are seeing something positive for the first time. And you know, Mike, and the viewers know, that I have for the past 35 years been an ardent critic of the government. Today, I'm Secretary General of a party, a political party in the opposition. And if I'm saying that this government seems to be doing the right thing for the first time, this should be taken seriously, particularly by people within the government fraternity, that something is good seems to be happening. However, we are watching this government, telling it, continue doing that right thing. If you carry on that way, we will praise you. If you don't, we will also point out.
All right, Professor, your closing comments, very briefly.
I'm very grateful to the president of this country for the first time, and as Kenyans know, I always speak it the way it comes from my mouth. I'm not going to be sympathetic with any mediocrity. Neither am I going to hide within the law, which stinks, when Kenyans, when taxpayers' money is being looted by the Most High, so that we can come up and segregate ourselves and say the law should be followed. Let it be followed. But if I was like the president of Manila, the Philippines, if I was in that particular position, and please don't elect me as a president because I'll make things go right. Uhuru is doing the right thing, Kinoti is doing the right thing, Haji is doing the right thing, Inspector General of Police is doing the right thing. Unless Parliament goes back to sit and change that law, let the police do what they are doing. They should not be sympathetic under any circumstances whatsoever with these guys who have looted this economy, who have brought tears to Kenyans, who have made Kenyans' taxes to be raised to congenital heights.
All right.
And there should be no sympathy of arresting them. Arrest the fools, put them in, and let them go and prove themselves innocent.
All right, Honorable Alice Wahome, the last word, very briefly, please, as we wind up.
I think as Kenyans, we should commend the work, the effort of the processes that are now going in terms of fighting against corruption. We are expecting and we hope that the process of the handshake can be expedited so that people can participate. But I want to ask the entire justice system to work within the law and ensure that the fundamental freedoms of the Kenyan people are actually respected.
Thank you very much, Honorable Alice Wahome, Member of Parliament, Kandara. We also have Barack Muluka and Professor Wajakoya. Thank you very much for joining us this morning on Political Point. That's where we're going to wind up this particular segment of the show. It's now 27 minutes to 8, but do stay with us right here on Morning Express. We have more lined up for you.